Hey, fellow babies, welcome back to Pachter Factor on SIFTD.net. I'm Michael Pachter, your host, your unpaid host. I'm doing this out of the goodness of my heart because I actually like staying current with all your brilliant questions. I hope you like staying current with my brilliant answers. If you are able to support Shane, who incurs great personal expense to make this happen, we'd appreciate your patronage on Patreon. If you do that, you are getting this real time. As soon as we post it, it is available for you. You can also get it real time if you're a subscriber to our YouTube channel. So appreciate it if you are doing that as well. In any case, if you are or are not a subscriber, please try to remember to link your Twitch Prime account to your Amazon Prime account. Shane will get paid for that. Twitch generously pays a couple bucks a month to anybody who remembers to link their account. So the instructions on how to do that are in the show description below.
This episode of Pachter Factor is brought to you by DeShazer Ryan Realty. Right now, Doug DeShazer has beautiful lots available adjacent to Koocanusa Lake in northwest Montana. Pull up your RV and access the hookups, or build your own construction. Either way, you have access to world-class fishing, hunting, boating, swimming, biking, hiking, and the internet. No matter where you're looking to buy, make Doug DeShazer your real estate consultant at 406-291-1643. That's Doug DeShazer at 406-291-1643.
Let's get to today's question from SIFTD. From the Sandman. Hi, Pachter. Hi, Sandman. The PlayStation 5 has enjoyed year-over-year growth since launch, but its sales just fell behind the pace of the PS4. Why do you think this has happened? That's a great question. Is it general softness in the console market, the initial supply chain issues at launch, price increase, or something else? To be honest, I think that the pandemic drove demand and accelerated it. So you pulled forward people who, like in a normal cycle, if a console, let's just make the numbers easy, launches at 500 and you hope it comes down to 400 and 300, there are people who will wait the 2 or 3 years at launch and will get the console later for lower price. But I think people stuck at home for that year and a half realized life's too short, and they were paying premiums, and Sony was able to sell as many as it could make. Then you had a big catch up because there's a lot of content available for PS5. So we caught up, but now we've got the competition from Game Pass. And not that Game Pass is humongous, but it's 25 million people. And there are people who I think are looking forward to the Microsoft Activision deal, adding a lot of content to Game Pass, and they're holding off. We've had a resurgence of PC, so you've had a bunch of really big, great games that have come out on PC as well as console. So I think Sony is just seeing kind of fading demand for consoles in general as people shift over to different ways to play games. And it's not helped by the fact that PS5 has remained stubbornly expensive. It is not helped by the fact that software is $70 instead of 60. So you've seen kind of an overall general increase in the cost of access to the PS5. At the same time, we've had lots of concern about a recession. We haven't quite had one yet, but people are feeling somewhat insecure. You get layoffs here and there. It seems like people, even though we have full employment, are worried about losing jobs. So they're less likely. You're seeing inflation, and primarily that's kind of in food and housing. Well, that's the core things we spend our money on. So if your rent goes up, there's less money to buy a PS5. So I think it's kind of a confluence of all the different macroeconomic factors, and we've got alternate means of distribution of games through Game Pass and a lot of PC. And console games, the lineup from third parties has not been all that compelling. You haven't seen a big frontline release that isn't an annual release from Take-Two in a couple of years. You haven't seen one from EA. I mean, Star Wars, but not really in the last couple of years. Activision finally got Diablo out this past summer, but they missed holiday, and they're going to miss holiday this year. There's nothing big coming out. So it's been just kind of a dearth of really compelling titles since 2020. And 2020 we got Cyberpunk 2077. There were reasons to kind of upgrade and buy a new console, even though those games are all available on PS4 as well. And then that's the final thing, that there really hasn't been a significant number of PS5 exclusive content that's not on PS4. So a lot of people think their PS4 is good enough, and especially if you have like a PS4 Pro. So all those things kind of weigh on PS5 sales. Fact is, this cycle is not going to be as big as the last cycle, period. You know, and I don't care that Sony bragged about PS5 being ahead of PS4. It was never going to stay ahead of PS4. I don't think there's a chance that PS5 is as big as PS4 unless you get a dramatic price cut. Now that could happen, because I think the cost of making a PS5 has probably come down to under $300. So, you know, maybe after this holiday you get a price cut to, you know, $350 or $300. That would be great. Then you will see sales spike because people will buy it. The people will buy it, if nothing else, just to play remastered Uncharted and remastered Last of Us and, you know, whatever, just older games. But there's enough content, I think, to justify a PS5 purchase. But I think PS5 is destined to be behind. I don't think supply chain issues really impacted much other than the cost of production, because Sony had to pay extra to make them, and so it kind of cut into their profitability on a per unit basis. And the result there is just you keep the price high longer than they needed to. But, you know, the last couple of cycles, they haven't cut price that fast. If you ever looked at like PS2, it launched at $300 and they cut that thing to $199 a year and a half later, and to $149 2.5 years later, because they wanted to kill the Xbox, and it worked. So, you know, Sony doesn't seem as concerned about Microsoft, except for the acquisition of Activision. They don't seem to care what Microsoft's up to. I think Sony is trying to make a profit, and I think they're masters at profitability, but I don't think they're ever going to sell as many consoles in any generation as they did in the prior. So I think each console generation sales are going to go down. So, you know, one quarter of downturn doesn't mean anything. And overall being behind at this exact point in the cycle doesn't mean that they can't cut price $200 and spike demand. I mean, they can. They won't, but they could. So I've always predicted that each cycle will be smaller than the one prior, just because we have more stuff to do. You know, just because, and to be fair, I'm not even talking about more stuff like mobile, you know, or Game Pass. I'm talking about more stuff like Grand Theft Auto Online or Apex Legends, where you might be playing it on your PS5, but you're spending so much more time on that stuff. And games like Zelda, Jesus, I mean, you could put 200 hours in Zelda in a blink. So anyway, my point is, it took me, I think 200 hours is I'm being too light. I think I spent more. So with games like that, and games like GTA Online, you can play that 10 hours a week for the rest of your life. And games like Call of Duty, adding in Warzone and mobile and premium, and you spend 10 hours a week playing that. And FIFA Ultimate Team, we're buying fewer games. And I think people are just happy. They can play that on their PC, they can play it on their PS4, they can play it on their PS5, they play, obviously, Zelda on their Switch. So, end of the day, the games business has changed, and we feel less compelled to buy a console. And because the games business has changed with GTA Online and FIFA Ultimate Team and Apex and Call of Duty, you're getting fewer games. So, you know, end of the day, consoles are kind of going to go away over time, and I said this in 2006, they're going to go away over time, and we're going to migrate to a subscription model, and the subscription model is going to have an ad-supported tier, and ultimately I think Game Pass looks like YouTube, where when you boot up a game, you watch an ad. You die, you watch an ad. You finish a level, you watch an ad. And if you have to watch an ad every 20 minutes playing games, you'll do it, because you want to get to the next level and it's free. And I think that's a massively popular, easy model to get hundreds of millions of people to sign up. And if all you need is an internet connection, I can tell you now, T-Mobile will offer you 5G internet as part of your phone subscription, and it works in your house, and it's good. So I think that the consoles are going away in time. We'll have another 2 or 3 generations, but they're going away. You guys can write that on my tombstone. So yeah, I'll upload on that. Thanks for joining us this week on Pachter Factor on SIFTD.net. We appreciate your patronage if you're a Patreon patron or a YouTube subscriber. You're getting it real time, and Shane is able to continue to produce the show, so thank you. It's not benefiting me at all, but he is staying afloat barely, so we appreciate that. Please remember to link your Twitch Prime account to your Amazon Prime account. The instructions are below, and you got to redo that every month or so. So please try to remember to check and make sure that you're linked, because we get paid and it costs you nothing. If you're watching this a week late on YouTube because you can't do any of those things, follow me on Twitter at Michael Pachter. I will see you guys next week.